Good morning, almost. Oh, pretty much, yet. I'm calling this press conference because I think Americans have to step up and defend other Americans because our president isn't doing it. The United Kingdom has sent paratroopers to take their people out. They're not depending on a terrorist group called the Taliban to help them. I understand now France is sending their own troops to take out their own people, and the people who helped them, by the way. They're not depending on a group that is killing women, raping women, slashing their faces, imprisoning people in their houses, and it is without doubt the most barbaric terrorist group in the world. It's hard to be more barbaric than the reign of terror, the Ayatollah. They are. And now I'm not sure we have a president. When I don't see the President of the United States on television until 5 days after Americans are being held in captivity, we don't even hear his voice for 5 days. When I'm used to seeing John Kennedy or Jimmy Carter or Ronald Reagan or Donald Trump coming out within hours of any kind of catastrophe and leading the nation, I can't think of a president who has ever advocated his responsibility like this. But let's get beyond that. There are lives still at stake, and there are things that still can be done. The first thing is, maybe this should be part of an impeachment hearing, or maybe it should be part of a hearing. But why the hell did we give up the Bagram Air Force Base? This is a no-brainer. So, who is our biggest enemy in the world? I'm not even going to address this to the president. I don't think he understands. I'll address it to whoever is running the country, and we don't know who it is. Whoever is running the country, and we don't know who it is. Who is the biggest threat to the United States long term? China. I don't expect Joe can say it because he's gotten so much money from them, and that's disgusting. Millions of dollars to the Biden family from our chief adversary, China. But in any event, Joe, just go step aside, go downstairs somewhere and sleep. Because you do better than when you get on television. When you get on television, you embarrass the hell out of the United States. And by the way, you've dishonored us. When America doesn't keep its word, you've dishonored yourself for 30 years taking money for your office. You are now dishonoring us by not keeping your word to those translators and people who put their lives at risk to save our troops. They made a promise. You have no choice but to back it. France understands that. England understands that. The United States of America doesn't understand that. We understand it, Joe. It's because we made a mistake. Just step out of the way if you can't do what a decent, honorable man would do in this situation, which is to send the necessary troops there and take our people out now. The hell with the Taliban. You got it? The hell with the Taliban. You cannot trust a barbaric Islamic terrorist group. That is beyond negligence. Now, what about the Bagram Air Force Base? If China is our main strategic enemy, we would want an Air Force base close to China. Hey, how about we get an Air Force base close to China and Iran? Would we want that? Would any country want that? Of course. Well, we had one, idiot. There it is. 400 miles from China, 500 miles from Iran. That's Bagram. I've talked to generals about this, and I waited to do this so I could check it with generals. They feel this is one of the greatest double crosses of the United States defense ever. Think about it. Kabul, 40 miles away is Bagram. That controls Afghanistan. Forget about war. Forget about 2,500 troops. We haven't been at war there for 3 years. That's getting caught in a semantic game because he's too unintelligent to get out of it. How can we be at war when we didn't lose anyone for a year and a half? We're not at war. We're sort of in a status like we were in Germany for 20 years, in Italy for 20 years, Germany for 50 years, Korea for 40 years. We have troops there to make sure that these people don't do what they did 20 years ago in 3 weeks. What did they do 20 years ago in 3 weeks? And this is of ultimate relevance to the people of my city. This country, this group running this country, brought back by Joe Biden, they were out. Whatever else we accomplish in Afghanistan, combination of Bush, Obama, and Trump got them out of power. Joe Biden put them back in power. And if you want to know if I'm angry, I sat there and I watched people die. Those people were trained in this country by the Taliban. I was missing for 20 minutes myself with Commissioner Carrick and a number of other people. They were the ones who trained the people who did that to us. Every funeral I went to was made possible because of the Taliban. And Biden, you put him back? Given that choice, Obama turned it down. Given that choice, Trump turned it down. Very few things they agree on. There's something about you, contrarian, not very smart, or maybe cognitively impaired. But Gates is right, you always make the wrong decision. I have a hunch as to why, but I'm tired of it. And you don't get the chance to make the wrong decision when American lives are at stake. And the people who pledged their lives to help us are at stake, and we pledged our honor. Honor, Joe, do you know what that means? Honor. Maybe a man who sold his office for $30 million, and I got the proof sitting right upstairs in that apartment. Maybe a man who sold his country for 30 years shouldn't be president of the United States. Maybe a man who can't finish a sentence shouldn't be president of the United States. And a man who can't protect us can't be. You gave up this Air Force base? Go explain it. See if the Democrats in the Congress love America enough to ask a simple question. How could you give up an Air Force base 400 miles from China, 500 miles from Iran? You know about Iran, right? If the Democrats in Congress cannot ask that question of any president, Republican or Democrat, they have lost their way. Their party comes before their country. This is a massive strategic asset that we have given away. Beyond the fact that we gave it away, they now have all our equipment. They've got all our equipment. Who do you think is going to examine our equipment? 400 miles away, China, right there. Well, a little further, Russia, and Iran. You don't think they're going to share our equipment with Iran, Joe? So when you go in and get our people out, and the people who helped us go in and get our equipment out, it doesn't belong to them, and take back our embassy, or have them pay for it. Start being a functioning human being. If you can't, step aside. Finally do something for your country. You never did. You never did. You started taking money when you were a senator with James. You took a fortune with Hunter from China. Gee, Joe, could that be holding you back on China? The 30 million or so your family got? The $10 million contract you had with China that you'd be getting money from if you were out of office right now? You are too conflicted to make this decision. Giving up an air base 400 miles from China screams out for an explanation. This is one of the worst letdowns of the United States in American history. It is one of the worst things an American president has ever done to bring dishonor to this great country. And if you know how the people who served in Afghanistan are suffering from what you're doing, you're not a nice man, Joe. You can fool other people. I know you for 30 years. I know all about you. Wow. Did America make a mistake? And now we're all seeing it. You're not fooling anyone anymore. Times isn't helping on this. NBC can't get you out of it. The whole world saw you. The whole world understands what you have because in their families they have people that act like you do. But their families aren't greedy enough to push them to be president of the United States. And their families will not get $500,000 for an idiotic, lewd, obscene painting. I mean, I wondered why they let you run. I did. I wondered. Would never let a person in your condition, who I love, make a fool out of himself, much less imperil the national security of a great nation. But greed overcomes all, particularly with the history of your crime family. President Trump's actions can only be judged by what he eventually decides. He negotiated once before to pull out, and he didn't do it. He negotiated. He decided to bomb Iran and didn't do it. same agreement was made by President Obama way back in 2014. President Obama didn't carry it out. The point is, when the generals came to Obama and Trump and told him what they told Biden, they haven't changed their minds over 4 years. I know them. They had the common sense, the decency, the honesty to back down. Second, even if they were to do that, they wouldn't have taken the troops out before the people. That is beyond, I can't imagine a functioning human being would do that. Everything was up for negotiation if the Taliban didn't do what we wanted. I didn't say that. He had conditions. He said, I have conditions. I will agree to withdrawal based on conditions if they're met. Conditions were never met. That's the way an adult human being negotiates. An infirm human being, person who's infirm or corrupted, takes out all the troops and leaves the civilian behind. It would be like this. World Trade Center. Civilians all trapped on the roof, all in the building. I get there and I say, tell them to shelter in place. I'm not going to send my firefighters in. Tell them to get themselves out. See if they get themselves out. Or how about I don't show up at all? And the building comes down and you can't find me for 5 days. And then I come out and I blame everybody else. I say, no, it was Ginkin's fault. It was the police department's fault. It was somebody else's, I can't remember the name. If I hadn't sent firefighters in to save people on September 11, I should rightfully have been thrown out of office and prosecuted. That's something I should have been prosecuted for, not to frame up this crooked administration is trying to do on me now.
Putting aside, how can people take your the president seriously after you led a campaign to try to convince people that he didn't win the election?
You want to see the proof of it? Go to my podcast and take a look at the proof of how many votes are in doubt in Georgia, how many votes are in doubt in Arizona. What you're telling me is part of the vicious propaganda and censorship and dictatorship of language that operations like yours have imposed on the American people. You have deprived the American people of the ultimate evidence. Let's get back before the election irregularities. The whole censorship of the hard drive on the theory that it came from Russia was a complete fraud. A fraud which you in the media 80% contributed to. When does the American people not get controversial information in a presidential campaign about a presidential candidate being a 30-year crook, only to elect Joe Biden? So we don't even have to get to the election fraud. He got elected with a censorship fraud. The whole world knows it. The whole world knows it now because they look at him and they say, American people couldn't have voted for that. I don't know who's independent anymore, my friend. 80% of this media is brainwashed, compromised, or can't get beyond their biases and prejudices. You have blocked the truth from getting to the American people at the relevant time, and you should be ashamed of yourself. I have not. I've talked to President Trump last week. I saw him for dinner. I had a good long talk with him, and it remains between him and me. It was I'll tell you though, he looks healthy. He's completely as sharp as he's always been. Can you imagine this happening under Donald Trump? Of course not. He'd have been there the first hour. He'd have been in charge of it. He would have done as he always did, made alterations as the plan went along. Among other things, they were completely wrong about the strength of the Taliban. Right? Okay, that's terrible. But what's even worse is they make no alterations as we move along because the president is absent. When have you ever seen a situation like this where the president isn't in the situation room? I was honored to be in the situation room any number of times, the most famous one being when Hinckley attempted to murder Ronald Reagan. I know why there's a situation room. Hey, Joe, the Situation Room is when America has a crisis and we have to make sure communications are maximized. In this situation, communications didn't exist. There was every reason for you to be in the communications room. Everybody in the world can reach you. All your people can be right around you. There's a big difference then. Zoom, and the Secretary of Defense or my police commissioner being right next to me. And I say to him, I want that stopped. Body language in leadership is enormously important. Joe would know nothing about leadership. Everyone around the world is asking, left and right, how do the American people get a president who can't act like a president? Everyone expected him that day to be in the situation. The next day, the day after. You ask yourself, well, go ask him, because you're afraid to ask him, which is why you cover up for him, which is why the big fraud may be the media. You presented to us a fraud. You never examined carefully why he was staying in that basement all that time. You never pressed him on it. You let him get away with it. He was in that basement because he can't function very well outside the basement. He's not in the Situation Room because he can't be in the Situation Room surrounded by generals, because he can't get through a half hour without displaying that he's incompetent. And those generals might just love America more than power. And they might do what an American officer has to do when he sees that his commander-in-chief can't handle it. So there's time to save American lives. And here's my suggestion. Let's find out once and for all a question I've had now for 5 years. Do Democrats elected in Congress, some of whom have been friends of mine, many of whom I work with to pass major legislation, like Biden and Schumer, to pass the 1994 Criminal Justice Act, which, by the way, I have not turned my back on. It reduced crime in America. It was misapplied, and you, Joe, like this, fell asleep and never fixed it. But the main thrust of that bill made America the safest it's ever been in 70 years. Safer than it is right now. So I see Senator Menendez has the courage to step up. The rest of them are hiding in little hovels. I challenge the Democrats to go to their president, demand an answer to why we left background, demand an answer to why he isn't in the Situation Room, demand an answer to why he doesn't answer questions about this, and satisfy themselves that we have a functioning chief executive, because the lives are at stake. And then I let him prove it to us by giving him 48 hours to get everyone out of there. He's got the biggest military in the world. He's got the smartest military in the world. He's dishonoring it, but he has it. They are anxious. He could get 20,000 volunteers to go over there, take every American and every translator and bring them back to the safety of the United States. We promised that. He is the one who has to make good on it. He makes us all. He is all. See? You are a very articulate man. That's the kind of person that they have driven to that kind of anger. This has been done because of that ridiculous hatred of Trump. And then everything Trump supports is bad and wrong. And anyone who supports Trump, like poor Ken Curson, gets prosecuted yesterday for nothing, for a marital dispute. That's what you've done to America by not covering this man and not covering Democrats accurately. The simple fact is, Democrats should demand that he use our military to save the lives of Americans and to save the lives of every person we promised that we would protect them. He has no discretion on that. The word of the United States was given. If he can't live up to the word of the United States, he should have the whatever to step aside. If he can't step aside, they should push him aside. Because if he can't go get those troops for us and the people who followed us, if he can't act to use our military to do that and get them out of the hands of a barbaric terrorist group, then, ladies and gentlemen, we don't have a president, and we better get one fast.
Can I ask you on a separate topic about Governor Cuomo and his decision?
Are we finished with that?
Well,
Well, we're finished with you. We already...
did you ask him to run, though?
Did I ask him to run?
No, with respect.
I'm going to tell you the truthful answer. I don't know. He doesn't know. And it would be If I were to advise him, I haven't said I haven't, I would advise him not to decide. In fact, anybody that came to me right now, whether it was Trump or Ron DeSantis or you name it, Ted Cruz, I would say, wait, it's too early. Only advice I would give President Trump is make the decision early enough. If you do it, my view, if you do it, I mean, if you ran today, I think he'd be elected by 15%. I don't think you could fix machines, stuff ballots. You couldn't do enough with a 15% lead. But who knows what things will be like a year from now. That's when he should make the decision, maybe a little less than that. And until then, he's a very prudent man. He's not going to make that decision until he makes it. And the rest of them, well, it's possible he won't run. The rest of them should be getting ready. We have a great candidate, already proven. And then we have 4 or 5 who are really, really superb. I mean, we've got the best governor in America. Pardon me?
Do you think it was a good decision by President Trump to use the Taliban leadership last year?
Well, I don't see anything wrong with meeting with them. I see something wrong with what you say to them and what you do with them. Most importantly, what you do with them. I think it was a very good decision to meet with Kim Jong-un. It stopped the flights over Japan. Didn't accomplish the whole thing. I mean, Biden wouldn't be capable of meeting with them. Yeah, I think if a president is intelligent, if a president is articulate, if a president won't make fatal mistakes in the course of a discussion, of course he should meet directly with our enemy, eye to eye, and let them know. I have no doubt they wouldn't have done it under Trump. None. And I have no doubt that Trump would not have readjusted his plans if they had gone wrong. Any responsible leader would have done that. Go ahead.
One more thing to talk about whether he made the right decision by resigning and the accusations of sexual harassment and the possible workplace.
Well, I believe he made the right decision because of all the things that were piling up on him. And I'm not saying this to defend him about any of the charges because I hardly know if they're true or false. As a prosecutor, I probably have my hunches on them. I don't like the way he was pushed out as a precedent because now I see the second time, at least prominently, we did prosecution by press conference. I mean, basically, he was pushed out based on Letitia James' totally unethical press conference, in which she spent an hour and a half telling us all the things he did wrong. She announced the credibility of witnesses, which the ABA rules basically commands you not to do, and she should be disciplined for that. The prosecutor doesn't tell you, well, I believe this witness, I believe that witness, I believe this witness. That's why we have a jury. And the fear that I have is this is becoming too easy because you, the press, didn't react against it enough. I think in a prior time, even Comey, the reaction to Comey should have been, if you didn't prosecute, you don't have a right to say all those things about Hillary. You want to say those things about her, put them down. In a charge her. What did she do? She did the cowardly prosecutor thing. She laid out all the proof she believes she has. She told us who she believed, and she said she's not going to prosecute. She'll leave the decision to other people. That is about as massive a con job as you can get. And nobody recognized it. Now, that is independent of whether he's innocent or guilty. He may very well be guilty. But go prove it. Don't just go announce it. And same thing with the nursing homes, which I believe, when I say it's a more serious charge, I think there's even more evidence of that. And that one looks like the corrupt Justice Department of this judge who looks like he's just an apparatchik of the Biden administration. I think they already dropped it. If they don't investigate the nursing home thing, I'm going to tell you why they're doing it. They're doing it because there are 3 other governors who did the same thing. So it may be, if you buy into conspiracy theories, that you buy into the fact that Democrats are conniving, it may be they got them out on the lesser charge because they never had to reach the one that could implicate other Democrats. It's very, very odd that Biden intervened and said, get out. Sounds like somebody was trying to protect the Democrat Party, not New York. I think the amount of evidence, not so much evidence, but the amount of public information being interpreted as evidence was crushing him. It was making it impossible for the man to function as governor. And I say that giving him the benefit of the presumption of innocence, which is long gone in Biden's America. Oh, no, except for his son, he's not presumed innocent. He's always innocent. Even when he falsifies an application for a revolver and denies the fact he's an addict when there's a picture of him 5 days before smoking crack and driving. How do you think people that go to jail for drugs feel about our president when his son, over 30 years, has probably violated the laws more than any of them? This man doesn't have the moral capacity to lead. And most of the people know that everything I put out, I'm not going to say it's true. It's based on evidence that has been suppressed. There's not a single thing you can ask me about what I said that I don't have an affidavit, a videotape, or a statement. Everything I said came from other people. And the fact that it hasn't been examined or investigated shows us that right now we're in a serious era of corruption. America will only come together when we have a single standard for all Americans. Thank you, and I do hope the Democrats, for once, put our country first. Right now, Biden is doing serious damage to the honor of the United States of America, and very practically, he's putting American lives and people who sacrificed their lives for America in danger, and he's breaking our word to them. He breaks his word all the time, but he's breaking our word. He has no right to do that, and the Democrats have no right to sit by and empower it. Thank you.